Our goal is not to eliminate roles. It's to elevate people's roles and to allow people to have time back to focus on more important tasks that are truly meant to be done by humans, which is building that relationship with your customers. We've had a number of offsites at the manager level, at the senior level, and then also at department levels where we've continued this talk track. We are rolling out, in conjunction with AI, something called superfans, which is how do you build a customer into a superfan? So how do I turn all the employees I work with into superfans, and same for any, stakeholder that you're working with. And they're meant to go hand in hand. So as you create efficiencies with AI, your job isn't going away. Your job may be shifting more to this customer focus. And here are the things that you can do with that time to build stronger relationships with your customers.
Leading and scaling a business isn't hard because you lack ideas. It's hard because your time, your team's time, and your focus get eaten alive by the daily grind. Too many leaders are overwhelmed, under pressure, and bogged down by low-leverage tasks. I've learned this the hard way. Scaling Nobody Studios, advising fast-growing startups and Fortune 500s, all while leading multiple ventures at once. I've seen firsthand how even the best executives get buried in meetings, lose strategic visibility, and burn out just trying to keep up. That's why I built the AI Executive Coaching Program, the same frameworks and tools that I've used in my own work to make it more meaningful, better leveraged, and more impactful. We're helping leaders in global businesses get hours back every week, turning chaos into clarity and operating with more leverage than ever before. This isn't theory. This is about identifying the traits you need to unlearn, the tasks pivotal to your success, and the tools that can be built into workflows to optimize your capabilities every day. From transforming meeting scripts into transcripts, into action plans, and spotting performance patterns you can't see on your own, we're upgrading the way executives lead. If you want to scale without losing your edge, let's talk. You'd be surprised how quickly you can lead at a whole new level.
Enjoying the podcast? Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube. This way, you won't miss any episode, and it greatly supports our podcast. Today's Unlearn Podcast, I'm joined by Cassandra Pratt, Chief People Officer at Progyny, a leading fertility and family building benefits company, transforming the employee experience in healthcare. Now, Cass's career began in finance and talent acquisition, but her defining unlearning moment came when she realized that saying no to opportunity was a real risk. That insight led her to jump into healthcare, an industry she knew little about at the time, and grow Progyny from just 50 people to more than 850 today. Along the way, she's redefined what modern HR leadership looks like: curious, experimental, but deeply human. In this episode, Cass and I explore how HR is evolving from a policy function to a design discipline, one that uses AI to elevate people and not replace them. When we talk about her hands-on experiments building internal HR bots, training teams in generative AI, and helping employees rethink what career growth means in an automated world. Cass shares how she's been helping leaders and teams unlearn the reflex to rely on expert firsts and instead start by asking better questions, prototyping new ideas, or using AI tools to co-create solutions. This conversation is for every leader wondering, how do I bring people along with me on an AI transformation? What does it look like when HR leads innovation instead of reacts to it? And how can I use technology to make work more human and not less? Cass shows what it means to lead with courage, curiosity, and conviction. And here is why the future of work belongs to the ones that are willing to unlearn.
I started in finance, moved into recruiting, was in recruiting for a long time. And I was at a startup and they asked me if I'd be interested in taking over HR. And having never had any HR experience outside of the talent acquisition, I was like, I'm not sure that's for me. I know bits and pieces, but I don't know enough about all the components to be good at this. And I say a startup, the company was about 300 people. And company went through some changes not long after I left. And I've always regretted not saying yes and trying to figure it out because they were willing to take a chance on me, and I was too unsure about all the things that I didn't know and how would I figure it out and would I get the company, into trouble or cause more problems than solve. And so ever since then, I have not said no. Not said no to big, interesting things. There are small things I still say no to.
Yeah, no,
For my
I
own
love hearing that.
sanity.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that, because actually so many people we've had on the show before, that was one of the things that they often say is, they said yes and trust themselves to figure it out. And, having worked with you and just seen your natural style, like you're super curious, you're willing to try things, you're a natural experimenter, but sometimes, we've been there, I've certainly been there myself, where opportunities have come up and I've second guessed myself, and it's driven frustration in me to go, you know what, I should have gone for that, or I should have taken the shot, and I didn't. And you can live with it for a long time and beat yourself up. But I love that you said, no, the next time that opportunity came up, I'm going to go for it, and have persisted with that approach. So what has given you sort of the reflection moment to help you go, all right, maybe I should have taken a different path. And then if you have reinforced that in a certain way and say, you know what, I'm going to take on these difficult, uncomfortable things and figure it out. Like, tell us more about your thinking now.
Well, it was very timely that I had that epiphany when I did, because shortly after that, I'd been in finance companies and tech companies for my entire career and realized that I wanted something different, something that was mission driven, that I felt like I could make a difference. And to me, the logical thought process was healthcare, but I had no experience in healthcare, none whatsoever. And that is when I found Progyny. And we were small, we were 50 people. They actually had no HR. They just wanted recruiting at that point. And so I took the leap into healthcare to try something new. And I was at Progyny, I want to say less than 6 months, probably 5 months before I started owning HR. Now, I also started owning HR when the company was 50 people, not 300 people. So I felt as if I could learn alongside. But I also realized that there's lots of different resources to learn. So past people that I'd worked for, were my mentors, and I asked a lot of questions. There are always learning resources out there, outside counsel, outside vendors, other people, just relying on them, asking a lot of questions, being curious, as you said. And it gave me a huge opportunity to see a company grow from 50 people to we're 850 now, and be in a place that, 15 years ago, I may not have thought I would be. So it's paid off. It hasn't always been easy. You have to learn and make mistakes and be willing to accept those mistakes and move on. But I was also very fortunate to work with people that were from that kind of environment. Very scrappy, startup oriented. Let's learn together. Let's figure out how to make this the best place to work and be that we possibly could. And so there were many things along the way that I think we learned from each other and created something that I think we're all very proud of now.
Yeah, rightly so. And it's very interesting for me around that number where you're talking around like 50 to like under 100 people. Mm-hmm. I always feel like when you're in businesses like that, you can really see the impact of your work. Like everybody sort of knows everyone, and it can feel like a real battle against the challenges of building a business. But it's a huge opportunity, I always find, for people to put their hands up and say, I'm willing to take this on. I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to figure it out. And in fact, regardless of the discipline, I feel like those are the people, I've certainly enjoyed being around and working with most in my own career, is folks that are just willing to try, regardless of the challenge. I've never done this before. I've no experience in this, but you know what? I'm going to go try figure it out. And invariably, they're the people that are the most fun to work with. They're the most interesting people to work with. And they find ways to get things done, even in hard situations. And So I just think it's great that you sort of, again, found that place for you to go and do this opportunity that, maybe the timing was just right, as you said.
There have been lots of other projects along the way since then that I took on that either naturally fit within the people team or many that did not naturally fit within the people team, and I raised my hand for them. And they've been great learning experiences for me. It's also given me the perspective that when we have people that are high potential that want to learn, sometimes you don't need to give them the logical next step in their career. Sometimes the best thing you can do is give them something that's a little bit wacky off the wall that they have to go, investigate and problem solve, because that will also give them the confidence to do that again. I would say that's sort of where I am with the AI piece. Our CTO said, "Oh, I'm going to do this thing." And I was like, "Ooh, I would like to do that too," which were the one-on-ones with you, Barry. And I'd been playing around with AI, a little bit. I am not a technical person. I've told many stories about my lack of technical expertise, but there's something about it that does feel intuitive, and the quality of life and the interesting problems that you can solve with it just excited me. And so I jumped in feet first to that one, which has been very, very rewarding. Also humbling to some degree. Like I cannot code. So I do often rely on other people for solutions, but there's a lot I can do myself, and that also makes me, have more confidence in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, it's been a joy working with you, just seeing you like throw yourself into getting uncomfortable, figuring things out, and just trying, especially with these new technologies, right? And for many leaders out there, like the thing I constantly hear from everyone is they're sort of almost overwhelmed. There's so many tools. There's another tool every day. People constantly feel like they're falling behind, that they're losing opportunity to the machine. It's very Terminator Matrix-esque at times. And yet, like, the most profound thing I've constantly seen with working with leaders like yourself is that once people sort of have these insights about having a little bit of time, a little bit of space just to focus on trying to learn how these tools or technologies can help or augment or automate some of your work, these people are, like yourself included, are super smart. So you just need a couple of things to unlock, and then suddenly people just fly. So for you, especially as a leader in HR, as you said, self-confessed, non-technical leader, which is totally fine. I think a lot of the audience are in that realm. What did you have to unlearn as you sort of started this process, to really figure out how could I get more productivity, more performance by using these AI tools in my daily work?
I think the largest thing for me was I always rely on an expert for something. And so I will go ask them, whether it's someone on my team that has a specific expertise, or someone in technology that is one of our developers, or cybersecurity. And always think, why don't I go ask so and so this question? Well, what would actually be better for them and for me is to unlearn that behavior and ask one of the AI tools that we use the question first, and make sure I have a fully formed, well-informed question, and then ask the people to review something to make sure it's accurate. One, then they're not answering low-level questions. Two, it gives me the ability to play in a space and get a fully formed idea before I go present it, which is sometimes difficult because there are certain things I don't want to communicate until they're nicely packaged. So I'd always have to be, careful about how I ask questions. And this way I solve both of those. I can get a very well-formed idea, test it with the different AI tools, and then present it to whomever has that expertise to sort of validate or poke holes in it, which AI can also do, but it's nice to have the ones that have the context of your environment. And then it's a better working relationship for everybody because they're actually a collaborator on something instead of just someone who's answering questions. So I think that was the starting with a tool instead of starting with a person was the biggest one for me. I would say with AI, I started with personal productivity, which I think a lot of people do. And that's very easy to get in the habit of, but it only gives you back so much time. Thinking bigger and realizing there's more to it, because our processes that we do are either too manual or maybe not the right process at all. And so how do we rethink them? Like, we don't need to keep doing it the way we do it because that's how things integrate with Workday, right? Think outside the box. How could we do this if it was blue sky? All the crazy ideas that you've ever had, now you get to really throw those out and figure out, oh, we could make this one work. This one, definitely not. We're not there yet. But it's fun to be able to have some of those really big, sometimes strategic, sometimes, more tactical, because you're breaking down processes and changing how you do things. But it's been exciting to be able to rethink those pieces. And once you start to figure out what you want to do with it, bringing people in to work with you and explaining that we're not looking at Progyny, we're not looking to offset people with AI. That's not our approach. We're looking to enhance how people interact with whomever their customer may be. So for me, that's our employees. For someone else, that might be our members or clients. But give people time back to operate at the top of their abilities and build better relationships with their customers, and help them understand that this is a tool to do that. All those things that you roll your eyes, do I really have to do this? Do I have to fill out this paperwork? Do I have to manually input this thing? You don't have to do that anymore. And we're not trying to get rid of your job. We're trying to elevate your job and really change it into something that's more interesting for you and more valuable for the company, and let the technology do, the lower level stuff, or find the analytics between like data or different data, right? That maybe it's harder for a human to identify. So I think it's unlearning all those things that for the last 20 years I've been doing. and how do we make it better for people? Because that's my world, right? HR is about people. So how do we make it better for all the people and also bring them along with us so they don't feel nervous and like so many people are saying, my job is going to get replaced. No, your job's just going to change quite a bit.
Well, what I really love about your saying is there's so many like facets to it. Like, one, just this personal experience that you're describing where, you found a place where you can really pressure test some of your ideas and move your thinking forward so it's more resilient, it's more robust, that you have confidence in, what you actually want to ask, and then leveraging, as you say, like human expertise to sort of cross-validate it, right? Like, I think that's one of the things that comes up a lot with senior leaders. It's hard as well when you are a senior leader. People sort of expect everything you say to be fully baked when you share it, or finding a place where you can sort of, I think Brene Brown has this word, rumble, that you can sort of like, battle test out an idea or go back and forth with someone about almost sparring about this idea about what you want it to be. And then you're talking about this idea at a process level, like thinking about how the company is working and what can we challenge about what we could do differently, or explore so many options about how to maybe solve something at maybe a lower cost or less investment, but it gives you more confidence in what to do. And then I love this last point because I think, we're doing our podcast this week where, even Amazon got rid of 14,000 people, 4% of their sort of corporate workforce, under the premise of, we're more efficient now with AI. And many people are sitting there going, well, what's my company's position on it? Is it a tool to replace me, or is it a tool to sort of elevate me, as you're describing, and what you're focusing at Progyny? So these are three great aspects. I really want to, especially just for your perspective as a HR leader and who's dealing with probably this anxiety that many people are probably feeling right now, is how does the company think of me as an employee? Right? Am I a head to be reduced, or am I a person to be sort of as you said, enhanced and elevated by these tools? So what are some of the things you've done in Progyny and yourself to help people understand not only where the company's going, but like the examples to make people feel like they're being invested in, they're valued, that they want to be supported?
So I think part of the problem is how other companies are messaging what they're doing, because I would imagine that it's not just because of being more efficient that companies are laying off large numbers of employees. There's always
Right
many,
on.
many factors that go
Absolutely.
into that.
Absolutely.
But an easy talk track is we're more efficient. AI has improved it so we can, reduce our
Good,
workforce.
good for the market. Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So we talk about it regularly. So about 6 months ago, we had a town hall for all of our employees, and we record our town hall. So if someone misses it, many of them watch it again. And we said just that our goal is not to eliminate roles, it's to elevate people's roles and to allow people to have time back to focus on more important tasks that are truly meant to be done by humans, which is building that relationship with your customers. So we started that 6 months ago. We've had a number of offsites at the manager level, at the senior level, and then also at department levels where we've continued this talk track. We are rolling out, in conjunction with AI, something called superfans, which is how do you build a customer into a superfan? So how do I turn all the employees I work with into superfans, and same for any, stakeholder that you're working with. And they're meant to go hand in hand. So as you create efficiencies with AI, your job isn't going away. Your job may be shifting more to this customer focus. And here are the things that you can do with that time to build stronger relationships with your customers. So it's starting to train the mindset of shifting a role. We are also beginning to roll out training. And so knowing, as we've seen already, not everybody is at the same level or desire to work with AI, different types of training programs at different levels. And most of it's being done not at the individual level. We're doing team trainings and cohort trainings so that people can talk about it and go through this process together. It also helps us group people based on skill or the projects that they may be working on to make it more relevant so they practice it. But you really have to invest in the people, and you have to talk about it a lot and what your intention is. And it's not going to get rid of the feeling entirely, because people are hearing it from every media channel that you could
Yeah.
possibly imagine these days. And so you have to not just say it once, but you need to say it once a month or once a week and help reiterate that. We also have talking points for our managers. So as we start rolling out the training, we're going to put together different manager packets around superfans and around AI to help people reiterate it at the department and team level. Because if it's just corporate saying it, it doesn't make it down to that individual contributor who is still feeling uncertain. But if your manager is talking to you about it and your team leader is talking to you about it in your stand-ups, then it's a higher likelihood that the message really gets ingrained. And I always forget this statistic, but it's something like you have to hear something 10 times before it resonates with you.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
want to keep doing that. We want to meet that statistic so that it really does feel like not only is it ingrained, this is what's going to happen to a person, but this is part of our culture. Our culture, we run lean. So that's one of the benefits for us. We don't have lots of extra employees where we could automate a job and, have it go away. What we really want to do is retain that knowledge that we have in the business and help reposition people for different types of roles in the future, and, more interesting, better paying, all of those good words for them as we go through our transformation.
Right. Well, that probably leads us nicely onto the second point you made about this idea of looking at processes, exploring new ways to do things, like tearing up the existing rule book and challenging yourself, right? Like, I've seen you do that on a weekly basis, even yourself trying to like build a HR bots and solve some of the problems again, which is fantastic to see. Again, you just try these things and figure it out for yourself, and find the limitations and ask for help where you need it. So maybe you can share with people just a couple of the things that you've tried. And I think some of them, again, that have really stood out to me is just like how you've thought about even updating policies or recognizing where people have lots of questions and how you're handling that in a HR group. Again, where you're at a point now of 850 growing more, obviously, so it's only going to become a bigger problem as you're onboarding new people. So can you just share some of the little experiments you've been doing? Because I think they're fascinating for people to hear and really get a sense of what you're trying.
So before I do that, I'll tell you one more thing that I had to unlearn because I think this one is funny, and our CEO agreed, which is it's not always the people with the most tenured expertise within a department that are going to come up with the idea. So I think there is so much opportunity for entry level employees to really change the way a company looks now with AI. And I say that because we were playing around with an HR bot, and it was actually a program I was trying to get off the ground for about a year, but didn't have the right information, tried a few things, had a couple of other people try it, it just didn't come to fruition. And then you and I started chatting, and I was able to materialize a better idea and work with someone who at the time was our intern. She actually is coming on full time.
Yeah,
And
good for
she
them.
ended up,
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
I know. So she was an intern. She ended up building our HR bot, which we started out as a benefits chat bot for employees as we went through open enrollment to answer questions, to help people get faster responses because we have a very lean HR team. And so oftentimes it takes more than 24 hours to get an answer to something. When you have an agent that has all your policies loaded, knows everything about your benefits, people can get instantaneous answers. And then the way we built the agent is once you get to a certain level of complexity, it refers you to the right person in HR. So for an employee, that is a much better experience because they get faster answers. They also can ask questions in the privacy, of their own space. And for us, it had many benefits, one of which was, to your point, we could actually track what questions were being asked better. We had created a ticketing system to know how quickly we were answering questions prior and get a general sense of it. But now we have a much more fully formed set of questions and timelines, and it's helped our HR team be more efficient. We are now loading more data. So I think all of the HR and people policies that we have, because it enhances the consistency of an answer. So it's not which manager do you get to talk to, and therefore your answer is slightly different, or which HR person do you talk to, and therefore the answer is slightly different. This is, one set of answers that can be used by everybody in the company, regardless of your level or what department you're in. So the consistency to me was really important too. And now we can see where people might have challenges. If we have a lot of people asking about leave and our leave administrator doesn't seem to be answering those, maybe we need to reconsider how we do leave navigation and leave administration. Same could be true for any benefit. We're getting more questions about, the medical benefit. Maybe we need to make some changes next year. So it has given us more insight on our population in addition to allowing them to have speedier time to answer. I also rolled out a competency model 3 years ago that was fairly complex. Some people love it, some people don't. I accept that not everybody loves it, but it was difficult to figure out a way to condense it into a usable format that would apply to a wide variety of roles and make it relevant to everybody's role, and then also align it with our business objectives. And so I am using AI to refine that idea, and test it and shrink it and then say, all right, what are we missing here? So I'm pretty close to having it be more simplified. And now it matters even more because we have teams outside the US. So global teams that we want to utilize the same framework, and it has to apply for both teams and make sense for both teams culturally and for the type of roles that they have. And so I'm able to test all of that with the AI tools we're using, and I will make many managers and leaders happy, I hope, when this gets rolled out early next year. So it's one of those pressure testing scenarios. Now, I did tell everyone at our executive offsite that I was doing this so they could hold me accountable to it as well. and sort of dangle that carrot. Don't worry, it's going to get easier. But I also think, I put out to our entire people team. So this includes recruiting, employee relations, benefits, compensation. We have a employee events team and employee comms team, and we oversee ESG within HR as well. And ask them with no guardrails, let's pretend money's no object, time is no object. What do you do every day that you wish you didn't have to do? And that takes a lot of time and maybe is duplicative or doesn't make sense. And so tell me what you'd like to get rid of. And started there for people to come up with lists. Now, some of it we can't really tackle right now because there are, some system limitations, but a lot of it we can. And I think that starts to get even the least technical people excited because they realize what the impact is for their job. Oh, wait, I'm not going to have to do that, or I'm not going to have to do that 10 times every day. So I really am trying to get people excited about it as well. And being a non-technical person, understanding like, what does it take? It's sort of, what is the so what for me in order to get everybody bought in on that? And then I think we'll have even more interesting things to test and try. We have people in our finance group have been testing a number of things, product, technology. So I think it's really interesting how it's transforming. Sorry, I missed L&D. L&D, which is also a learning and development, which is under the people team. They also have done really interesting things where we can turn around and build trainings much, much more quickly. And we're about to test another tool that will allow us to do it even faster with product trainings. Even with little updates to products, we can build a training in 30 minutes instead of 2 days. So I think even for the business, it's just exciting to see what you can do and how much more and better you can do it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing watching you go through this, both as yourself and your entire company. And I think one thing that you've all grasped is this idea of building learning mechanisms into these products, these bots, these agents that you create. Your policy example is certainly one of my favorites, where you're using the queries to inform what the FAQ should be, or where you should invest time updating or refining, or again, looking for exceptions about where people are struggling or unhappy with a benefit, and then using that as the feedback mechanism to say, right, should we reevaluate that benefit, whether it's how they book their holidays or, some healthcare, dental plan that they're on, or whatever it might be. And I think this is like the real promise from a process point of view, is that people aren't just pushing things out for the sake of pushing them out. They're building learning systems to say, right, this is our first expression of what the policy is. How do people interact with it? What do they use more? What do they use less? What questions are they asking? Does that mean we need to do, as you say, a town hall on it, a manager coaching on it, an L&D training program on it? The philosophy that you're all operating at from now, I think is, again, quite unique, because many people don't get to that, because they're stuck in this very traditional world still of, I have the L&D project, I will build the training course and deploy it, and I will tick the box that, our customer training module for the release 785 of Progyny is now complete, rather than using how people are interacting with your service as a signal for where you should invest the next effort or increment of your time to improve that system that people are interacting with. And, I think that's, again, a huge unlock for teams, for departments, for companies, when that mindset sort of flip happens, because you're generally going to be building more of what people want. And it feels easier for them because the thing they're thinking about is the first thing on the screen in front of them. And they're like, it almost feels like serendipity for them in a way, by going, wow, oh, here's the thing I'm looking for. So what do you think then as an industry, or maybe even a department, especially in HR, right? Like, you speak at a lot of conferences, you're very, as you say, you're active with speaking with peers, mentors, all these people. What do you think maybe something that you've observed maybe in the people resources and human capital space that is maybe limiting people trying the things you're trying now? Or you've talked about getting people excited rather than and reducing the fear, I think is always really important. But what have you seen from your travels and the different talks or panels you've been giving on this over the last 6 months especially?
So I think it's really interesting in the realm of HR and people teams, you have two very opposite approaches. You either have people that heads of people that have really embraced it and now are leading some of their AI transformations. So really at the tip of the spear. And then the opposite end is you have HR teams that are just not involved in it at all. And they're
Yeah.
going to be one of the last groups to have someone say, we're going to bring resources to you, right? And so oftentimes HR groups are thought of as cost centers. They tend to be under resourced many times. And I think that's one of the places where AI, even just dabbling in it on your own, so whether you use Copilot or you use, ChatGPT or whatever AI tool you're using, figuring out how do I play with it on my own. Starting with your emails is not bad. Although I think everybody these days knows when something's written by AI because it's too perfect. I heard some tech companies talking about how they misspell words or they use little I to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
that people know that it was written by a human. But what are the ways that you, with low level tools, could really improve your own day to day? Because once you do that, you actually provide a use case for something else. So if you have a people team, let's go on the end of the spectrum that gets no resources, that starts automating small daily tasks that they do, or something that I found really valuable that all managers can do very simply is you can use your emails. We're a Microsoft shop, so emails, Teams chats, and we transcribe some of our conversations. Take all of that data. Now you have good data to say, each week or each month or each quarter, tell me the things that I need to follow up on, or where have I been spending most of my time? So you can do that for yourself. The other thing for a manager is I can go back and say, tell me for the last quarter what so and so on my team has been working on, and write up a review of the top 5 things that were completed and 3 to 5 things that weren't, and then use that as a talk track for conversations. So it simplifies finding things that maybe you would miss over a period of time. Even when, if you're doing reviews, you can go back 6 months or 12 months and pull information, because now you have those transcripts. You have a tool that can analyze emails and chats. I found that really helpful. Now, clearly, tools are emerging. You have to gut check it and review it, but it gives you a faster starting place for some of those things. And they're most of what an individual will do, some other individual in your company will find value in. So if you can show that you're trying this, you're taking the initiative, and then how could that benefit someone else? You start to build a case for, oh, they're doing some interesting things and they're doing it on their own. How do I pull them into conversations with other teams? So I think that's a starting point. I mean, if you need to learn on your own and you aren't resourced, there's lots of online tools that you can do as an individual. You could look at YouTube, and YouTube has tons of videos where you can learn about building prompts and things to ask. Don't put confidential details in any public instance of an AI tool. That's the one thing I would ask. But that's how you build it up to start showing that there are things you can do that will improve your life and other people, and talking about it and sort of normalizing it so people understand, yeah, we should be trying this. If you're at the opposite end of the spectrum, it's how do you bring people along with you? So we asked our entire executive team to come up with 2 projects that they were going to kick off within Q4 using AI tools. Either they had kicked off or they were looking to kick off. And we did that because we wanted to see where everybody was with their comfort and get people to start thinking about it bigger. And you could tell some people, came up with personal instances. Some people were reinventing their entire department. But we talked about it as a group. And the reason why that's really beneficial is you learn from each other. The people reinventing their whole department might need to think smaller sometimes. The people thinking just about their personal productivity can hear what other things are going on in different departments and elevate their strategic thinking around it. And so I think, for people teams, it really is having the conversations, normalizing it, trying it. There are a lot of things that we do in HR that, are manual and not super fun. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah,
So
and
if we,
every department. Absolutely, yeah.
if we can figure out how to automate that, you allow HR people to be more involved with the business, to understand the business better, to understand how do we tie the things we do to business better, to make it useful, not just a superfluous process or policy, right? Because that's not what anyone wants to work on. And you really get this better collaboration between groups. It's also, AI is such a cross-functional transformation for companies. It's very rarely going to be one department working on something. So how do you embed somebody from the people team into all of those projects, whether it's their HR business partner or like our wonderful intern who I have now shared with many other departments? They're like, I don't have a resource to start this. I was like, talk to this person. She's lovely.
I know the person. Yeah, that's it.
But it's even expanding that idea. The junior people on our teams are the ones that are going to teach us. So ask your junior people, roll it into your interviewing process, leverage their knowledge. They have so much more to give than people realize that I think it's super exciting. And it gives them a better integration into the organization and working with senior leaders. And we can all benefit from each other.
Yeah, no, there's just, so many great points you're sharing there, and I first of all, I really enjoy what you're saying about everyone challenging their traditional mindset of expertise or a term is actually what defines how people can contribute. That your amazing intern who's done all these great things to like get these projects and off the ground and showing what they can do is just such a great example of that, encouraging people that there's so many places that they can learn. Again, I think one of the biggest inhibitors is just starting. And again, the way you've described not only yourself, how you just started to try and learn, but you've systematized it in the company by, making it something that your whole leadership team is talking about, that they're all trying together. And as you say, some people will start super small, some start too big. But that sort of, if you will, like exposure to all these different lessons learned, how people are trying to apply it in their company, that's what normalizes it. And, no one's judged for what they're trying. It's just interesting for everyone to see how they're doing it, what's working, what's not working, what they would do differently. And for me, that's probably, again, one of the big promises of this, along with probably the last point that you made, is that I'm a firm believer that we have an opportunity to sort of give people more time and give people more of their moments and their presence ultimately back in their work, where the time-sucking, time-sinking tasks that are necessary evils and important, you can shrink that time and expand the creative problem solving. And HR, again, I think it's one of these departments where creative problem solving, like being present with people when they're talking about the problems that they're facing within the company, is the imperative part of the job. I'm sure it's the part of the job you enjoy the most, rather than typing up performance review reports or so these sorts of things. Again, it's just helping people realize that it happens in every department, that everybody has a routine, somewhat sucky work that is necessary but important. And if you can shrink the time on that and expand the time on the creative problem solving, being prepared for high stakes situations or meetings, so you're the best you can be at that moment. I think, for me, this is the big promise. And again, you're exemplifying that, I think, at Progyny and the work you're doing yourself. So yeah, look, it's been amazing to have you on the show and share all the stories and experiences you've gone through. It's been fantastic working with you and the team. You're a great bunch of folks, and you're doing amazing work. any way with your mission, but to see how you're using technology to accelerate that and improve customer experiences even better. So thank you so much, Cass, for joining us on the show. And, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. I really appreciate, Barry. I just have to say that you have unlocked the excitement with a lot of people on our team. And so that excitement is contagious. So I really appreciate all the work you've done with us over the years, but especially in the last few months, because it's helped us take big steps forward. So thank you.
Well, I'm grateful to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode useful, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please consider leaving a rating or a review, as it helps others find our podcast. For more episode and details about the show, visit barryoreilly.com, and we'll see you on the next episode.